Hey, everybody. This is Craig Garber. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar. We've got the birthday boy himself, Andy Aledort. His birthday's tomorrow. He'd be 35. He didn't want me to give his age away, but that's what happens. That's how we roll here. A couple of quick announcements. I want to thank Ryan McDermott for connecting us. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it. And thank you for listening and all the good vibes. And make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com/subscribe and subscribe to the audio and video of the show. I would venture to say almost everybody listening has heard of or knows of or has known of Andy Aledort at some point in time. But in case you don't, he's been contributing to the international music scene for 35 years. Working as a journalist, an instructor, and a performer. He's conducted literally hundreds of interviews and lessons with the world's greatest guitarists for Guitar World and other publications. He's also toured and recorded with original Jimi Hendrix bandmates Mitch Mitchell and Buddy Miles, as well as Stevie Ray Vaughan's Double Trouble. He was a member of Dickey Betts and Great Southern for 12 years. Great band. And he also played with Albert Collins, Johnny Winter, and B.B. King. He's sold over 1 million instructional DVDs, and he also teaches guitar privately and through online sites such as TrueFire. He lives on Long Island, and he's made hundreds of teaching videos on YouTube. And he recently co-authored a book about Stevie Ray Vaughan called Texas Flood, The Inside Story of Stevie Ray Vaughan, and we'll talk about that. Man, thanks so much for coming on the show. I appreciate your time.
Greg, thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
And happy birthday. You know, I've had a lot of people come on. I guess, I think you'll make it. I'm feeling good about this.
That's okay. I'm going to put my money with you on that one.
Yes, I'm feeling very positive. Man, you were primarily interested in art as a kid. And from what I've read, you went to college for art, but then you switched over to music. What prompted you to do that?
Well, because, I know you're going to ask me some stuff about my parents and their influence and stuff. So it's really, it has everything to do with that. My mom had been a professional singer, and she also was an actress or musical theater.
Oh, wow.
More community theater type stuff in the musical acting department. Although she did do the show Where's Charlie with Ray Bolger, who was the Scarecrow.
I remember Ray Bolger.
In Wizard of Oz. And there's all kinds of people that she performed with often, like B. Arthur from Moss.
Yeah.
B. Arthur. And this is in the 40s, we're talking about.
And where was this? Was this in New York?
New York.
Okay.
New York. She grew up in Jackson Heights, Queens.
Queens, yeah. Okay, cool.
My dad was from close to there. They went to the same high school. He's older than her, though. He was born in 1921 and went and fought in World War II in the Navy. And she was born in 1924, and she just passed summer before last. So she
I'm sorry.
Did a long life. She's 93. But
Sorry.
my mother, so she had been a singer, and from my earliest memories, we had piano in the house, and she would play piano and sing, and an amazing record collection. And her tastes were very diverse. Like, the record collection was really cool. It was everything from, and I remember this stuff like it was yesterday, like she had like a brand new album, Tony Bennett, Left My Heart in San Francisco. And, I loved it, I thought it was great. I was like 4 years old or something and loved it. And she was a big Ella Fitzgerald fan. So a lot of Ella Fitzgerald, jazz singers, and then, but classical music too, like she would play. She loved the guitar. See, this is kind of interesting. When my parents were dating, you ever heard of Vicente Gomez, who's a classical guitarist?
No.
Right.
Sorry.
So Vicente Gomez he's not as well known as Narcissa Yepes or who's the other guy I'm thinking of? I can't think of his name right now. Gomez, though, made some records. He was known, and he owned a restaurant in New York City, and my parents would go there when they were dating. So
It's
anyway,
funny.
so she had some Vicente Gomez records, and she had Chet Atkins records. You know, um,
You
but
wonder
then,
if all, it's not that, sorry to interrupt you. I just thought of something, these are all like nice stories of nostalgia of dating. You wonder in the future, like, oh, your dad and I used to go on eBay together and look for, like it's, you know what I mean? Like instead of like, we used to go to the park and,
it sounds so bad.
what's that?
No,
No, but like, what are, because of the internet is the, instead of the memories being external, they're going to be like internal on a computer.
they will be, but the only good thing is, like what you like from your sphere of experience. So you don't know what you didn't.
Right. You don't know what you
What
didn't,
you didn't
right.
have.
You don't know what you're missing. Right. Very true, man. Yeah. Nobody's going to say, well, I wish we would have gone to
Damn,
Vincente's restaurant. Yeah.
I didn't get to go meet Vicente Gomez either.
That's
So,
right.
I mean, I missed out on that.
There you go.
And I didn't go to Woodstock. I did go to Watkins Glen though, 73. But anyway, so along with Tony Bennett, Ella Fitzgerald, classical music, Segovia, she had Lead Belly Records and Josh White and Sonny Terry
That's
and
interesting.
Brian McGee. Like, I mean, she had this like. So I'm like, this is like before the Beatles, like, these are the records that would just get played, in the house. And on Everest Records, was the record label that Lead Belly and Josh White were on. I mean, so it was just there. It was just there. Now, the other thing is she bought a guitar.
Did you know if your guitar, bass, pedals, or any of your music gear is damaged, broken, or stolen outside your home, your homeowner's insurance policy will not provide coverage for any of it? That's right. Homeowner's insurance only pays if something happens inside your home and if the items are not used for business purposes. But Music Pro Insurance insures all your music gear no matter where it is, anywhere in the world, even when you check it in as baggage on an airline. Here, let me give you some actual examples of coverage they've provided. You're in a car accident and your equipment is damaged, boom, you're covered. Your kid pours apple juice into your amplifier, covered. Someone accidentally spills beer all over your pedal board at a gig, covered. In fact, any kind of theft or accidental damage is covered, even water damage from hurricane and breakage from earthquakes. But here's what makes Music Pro really different. They're not going to argue with you over the value of your instrument or make you run around looking for receipts when it comes to paying your claim. They know exactly why your vintage instrument is worth 10 times more than a new one. Plus, all claims are typically paid and fully settled in 24 to 48 hours. So if your equipment is not insured properly, go to everyonelovesguitar.com/Music Pro. Hit standard and then enter your information and get a free gear protection estimate. Don't be that musician who ignores this and then next month when something happens, you're wondering why you didn't take 10 minutes to do this properly. Make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com/Music Pro, enter your information and get a free gear protection estimate. This way, when something happens, you won't lose a minute of sleep because you took care of this already. I want to talk to you about the Bose S1, which is an amazing speaker for acoustic guitars that I've been playing lately. The S1 has two separate channels. It has one for your guitar and then another one for a microphone. And then there's a third channel you can use for a looper or for backing tracks that you could access by Bluetooth or through a 1/8 inch plug. And the S1s are also very easy to carry. It's got an easy to grab top handle and absolutely anyone can tote it around, and it's also rechargeable for up to 11 hours. The S1 was specifically designed to optimize the sound of your acoustic guitar on acoustic guitar gigs. The guitar and mic channels each have separate tone, volume, and reverb controls, and there's also a proprietary tone match switch which restores and optimizes the natural sound of your acoustic guitar, which, as you know, is typically the biggest problem with acoustic amps. Now, I tested the S1 myself, and the tone, volume, and reverb controls sound great, and they're very responsive. You can position the S1 in 4 different ways. You can tilt it back so you broadcast out to an audience, or you could put it horizontally, vertically, or on a stand. And the cool thing is the S1 has a Bose accelerometer, so it automatically adjusts the EQ and optimizes the sound for whichever one of these 4 positions you're using. The S1 also happens to be the best Bluetooth speaker that Bose makes, which is pretty compelling since Bose is known for the quality of their Bluetooth speakers. So effectively, you have an acoustic guitar amp, a PA, and a killer Bluetooth speaker all in one. And the bottom line is this. If you're an acoustic guitar player, there's absolutely nothing out there that sounds this good and this big that's also easy to carry and battery powered. As far as the Bluetooth speaker goes, I've used it many times here at home for family barbecues, and the sound is so good, my kids wind up arguing over who gets to play the music they want. You know, it's literally like having a full stereo system out on your patio. You can use the S1 for DJing, tailgating, or whatever you want. Before this, you'd have to spend a bunch of money on loads of different speakers and pedals to get the same thing the S1 does on its own. On top of that, it looks great just like all Bose devices do. And besides whatever money back guarantee you get from wherever you buy the S1, Bose also warranties the S1 for 2 years for any kind of defects in materials or performance. For more information and to find out where to get your own S1, go to everyonelovesguitar.com/S1. That's everyonelovesguitar.com/S1. Get the S1. It's outstanding. Are you looking to buy or sell a home in the Tampa Bay area without having to deal with pushy realtors? Then make sure you connect with West Florida Real Estate. West Florida Real Estate has helped over 300 homeowners and investors buy and sell their properties over the last 5 years. Their service is outstanding, just like back in the days when there was actually service in the service business, and you'll never have to deal with any kind of sales junk when you're working with them. For more information, email Ann with an E at westfloridarealestate.com. That's ANNE at westfloridarealestate.com. If you're enjoying this show and you'd like to support it, go to everyonelovesguitar.com/support. And for information on advertising, visit everyonelovesguitar.com/advertise.
When she bought a guitar when she was pregnant with me. So before I was born, the guitar was already there. So, you know, a lot of guitar players have the conversation, what was your first guitar and when did you get it? Somebody even wrote a book. There's a book called My First Guitar. Maybe you've heard of it.
No, that's cool.
That's what the whole book is about. Because
everybody getting different people get their first guitars.
It's a touchstone for everybody, right?
That's cool, man.
You know, so I was talking name dropping time with Jimmy Vivino, who's a guy I've gotten to know over the last 25 years. Very, very, very nice guy. Great.
I had him on here. He's a nice guy.
Oh, yeah, I love Jimmy. Anyway, so we were having this conversation, and I told him, you know, in 1955, my mom was pregnant with me. She bought this Guild F20 3/4 size acoustic guitar, and I was born in the beginning of 56. And he goes, "You mean the guitar was already there when you showed up?" I go, "Yeah." And I remember being 2 years old, crawling around, and the guitar would be in the case on the floor. And I'd open the case, and it was like, you know, this contraption that was just filled with mystery and intrigue. And I would pick the strings, and the sound, just the sound of the string resonating was like an amazing thing. Like it was an amazing thing to me. And that's a very vivid memory. And here we are, you know, 200 years later, and like it's the same situation. You know, you look at your guitar from across the room, and you think of all the, you know, potential.
Yeah,
it has.
Good way to put that. Yes.
Jeff Beck said once, whenever you find something cool on guitar, don't take any credit because it was already there on the guitar.
Yeah.
You just got lucky and found it.
Yeah, man. That's really good. Did you interview him?
A few times, yeah.
We're going to deviate a little bit if you're cool with it. How was that?
Oh, great, man.
Yeah.
I have the greatest Jeff Beck story, though. So
Go ahead, man. Do it. Let's hear it.
Well, all right. I'll try to do it in a nutshell. In 99, when he put out the album, Who Else? You know, through the 90s, he hadn't done that much stuff. And that was kind of the beginning. He switched managers, and then he started to really put out a lot of product. If you're a Jeff Beck fan, you know that. He went from like 5 years between records, if you were lucky, to like there were records showing up almost once a year. And Who Else in 99 was like the first one. And there have been so many, I can't even list them all, you know.
Yeah, there's tons of them.
Bing, bing, bing. And they're all great. So I had a VIP from being a writer all these years, and he was on Epic Records. And so the girl from Epic, you know, hooked me up. Me and my drummer went. He was at Roseland, New York City. And Roseland had the VIP section. There were two, but the one I was at, when you go in on the left side, you go upstairs, and then you go all the way towards the stage. And then what was really cool is you could go so far back, you would be directly above the stage. So on the other side of the PA, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Like, there's Jeff. Like,
so you'd be right over Jeff, sort
you're
of.
right over him. And there's his amps, and you're hearing the sound of the band off the stage. Like, it was really great. And so that's where we were. And I mean, it was crowded. There was a VVIP section.
Was that very, very important people?
As opposed to the VIIP, very important people.
Yeah. Or FIP, fucking important people. You know, I mean, who the hell?
So I didn't qualify for that, which would add seats in it, but whatever. Anyway, so this guy there was a railing, and there was a guy in front of us. And it was fine. We could see fine. And he looked like Yngwie Malmsteen. He had all his hair, and he had like his big aviator glasses, and he was really bomb. And so at some point he turns around and he's like, hey, I have to go hit the head. You know, can you hold my spot for me? And I said, sure. So he left, and I went on the railing, and then he came back in like 15 minutes. And I just went, oh, here you go, man, you know. He's like, oh, it's so nice of you here. I have drink tickets. Let me give you some drink tickets. And he pulls out a ball of drink tickets. Like, there were like 20 of them.
Right.
Ball, like these little tickets. So me and my drummer were like, waitress, I'll have 10 beers. So will he. And we were like this with the beers, you know. Not kidding. And so the girl, I think her name was Stephanie from Epic, had said to me, I'd never met Jeff then or interviewed him. She said, you know, you want to meet Jeff after the show? And we're like, oh, yeah, oh, my God. And so she said, all right, well, when the show ends, hang out. Like, she knew where we were. She gave me the VIPs.
Right.
She said, just hang out. It's going to be crowded, and there'll be a lot of people going in to see him. So just be patient, and it might take a half hour, you know, but I promise, you know, I'll get you back there. And so I had said before the show, you know, great. Okay. I don't really think it's possible to get drunk on beer, but
I was going to say that was before 10 beers, man. That's exactly what I was thinking.
You know, it's really hard to get drunk on beer. You know, I mean, that's what I think.
I disagree.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm used to like injecting them, you know, like Powerade or something.
All right, yeah.
But no, we got drunk.
Right, I would imagine.
Okay, so now the show's over. Everyone's milling past, and the dressing room was right down the hall. But I was like, we got to hang out, but we were feeling it.
Yeah.
So we were like, well, we got to sit down, man. Like, you know, like we've got to wait a while. So we went and we found this little spot where there were some steps, you know, upstairs. So we sat, which very quickly turned into laying down. We were both just like this. And all of a sudden, like, I'm being shaken, and it's Stephanie, and she's like, what are you doing? Like I thought, don't you want to meet Jeff? Like I was looking like, what the hell are you doing?
I'm just napping.
Like, you're gonna leave. Like it's almost, like it's late, and like like you pretend you're not drunk. You're like, oh, I'm fine. Well, no, hey, yeah. So, so she, and I know she like wanted to kill both of us. She's like, it's fucking idiots. And so she's bringing us back, and she gets to the door, and she goes, all right, look, she goes, Jeff can be, a little temperamental, say hello. And if it seems like he doesn't feel like talking, just say thank you, and that's it. See how see what his vibe is. I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely, Opens the door, and it was true, like there was hardly anybody in there. The band was in there. Billy Gibbons was in there.
Right.
Like maybe like 3 other people besides the band. Small room. And Jeff's talking to some guy. So I have the proper like buffer zone, 10 feet or something, But literally within 10, 15 seconds, the guy walks away and there's Jeff by himself. So I just go straight over to him and I throw my arms around him and I go,
oh my God.
I love you. And I kissed
God.
him. I gave him a big hug and I kissed him on the cheek. And I think the girl died of a heart attack, right?
Yeah.
And he fucking laughed his ass off.
He did. Okay.
He loved it. And so then it was like we hung out back there for about an hour and a half.
That's awesome.
And he was hysterical. And we had pictures taken.
That's great.
And Gibbons was great. And I interviewed him a couple years later, and he was a fantastic interview. And I did meet him on maybe 2 other occasions. I got to just say hello to him backstage at a show. He was always great. We weren't able to get him to participate in the Stevie book. And this business, Craig. It's like, I can't even tell you how many times artists have turned us down. It happened with Jackson Browne for this book.
Wait a minute. They toured together. I saw them together. They played together. I mean, I saw them here in Tampa at the Sundome.
Yeah, I went to the Madison Square Garden show.
Yeah.
But the point is that we kept getting a no, like he doesn't want to talk to you for the book. And
from him or from his management?
I don't have a direct line to Jeff.
Yeah, so it's just through somebody.
And then there's another part of this business which is really annoying, which is people who are there like it's their best friend.
Mm.
And then you say to that person who's your good friend, can you mention it to them? And they go, no. Because I can't bridge the gap.
I get that.
They feel like I'm lucky to have this friendship with them, and I'm not going to, you know what? I accept it, but I think it's bullshit, and I'll tell you why. Because there have been more times than not when you finally meet the artist, and this is exactly what just happened with Jackson Browne. We tried 10 different routes to get Jackson to participate in the Stevie book, and we're told no. And like a month ago, no, at NAMM, so almost 2 months ago, 6 weeks ago, a close friend of mine saw Jackson, asked him if he knew about the Stevie book, and Jackson's response was, yeah, and I'm really pissed off that those people didn't try to talk to me. And I was just like, you have got to be kidding me. We tried 100 ways through normal management routes, through his personal manager. The thing is, nothing against Jackson Browne's personal manager, because I don't know what happened.
Right.
But here you have the artist complaining that he feels slighted. And we would have liked nothing better than to talk to him for the book. It would have been fantastic. But I've seen it myself from my own, connection to working with some famous people. is that a lot of managers, they just won't ask their artists to do things. They won't. Unless they have their own personal.
Well, they have an agenda, and if their agenda isn't congruent with your request, it's not.
It doesn't exist. So you've probably heard it a million times. Oh man, like if I knew, Ronnie Wood said that when Brian Jones died in 1969, he was already playing in the Faces.
Right.
They begun because Steve Marriott had left the Faces, and Ronnie had started to play with Ronnie Lane, and they were about, it was the Small Faces. And
Small Faces,
they were about to become the Faces. But this is 1969. And so when Ronnie finally did join the Stones in 74, Mick Jagger said to Ronnie, how come you didn't want to join the Stones when we asked you in 1969? And this is Mick Jagger.
Yeah.
And Ronnie's like, nobody told me. And he said he found out that Mick Jagger called Ronnie Lane.
Oh, and Ronnie Lane didn't want to give him up. Holy shit.
It's like, no, Ron doesn't want to play with the Stones. He's too busy with the Faces.
Yeah, but you know what? I think I understand what you're saying. I just move on because I don't know and I don't really care. Everybody has an agenda, and it's none of my business is how I feel. And I do not deal with managers though. And I have had out of 700 interviews, maybe 5 of them through PR people.
Right.
I refuse. And I had an incident with somebody. It wasn't the artist, the player's fault, but his PR person was just so fucking rude to me. And I got a pretty thick skin and I don't take anything personal, but his behavior was so just gross that that was remember that game, the straw on the camel's back or something? I don't know what the game was called, but when we were kids, and that was it. I said, I'm never dealing with, I have a couple of PR people I have a relationship, but I won't deal with anybody new.
Unfortunately, that's the rule more than the exception. And
yes,
I'll give you one more. And this is there's been 100 of these. So, and again, some of this involves leaping ahead in your questions.
Sure, man.
And we never got back to me being an artist before being a musician. But, when I started to write for guitar magazines, the first thing that they wanted me to do, which hadn't been done in guitar magazines very much, was I would do a conventional interview. This started in very beginning of 1985.
Yeah.
Do a conventional interview, but then do a lesson with the guy, because I would write everything out in notation in the magazine. And so the first guy that I did that with was Steve Morse.
That's like baptism by fire. What the hell?
Yeah, but it was good for me because I loved Steve and was such a fan, and I knew his music, and I even played some of his songs as poorly as I may have played them. But I was well familiar that I could ask him about Cruise Control and Twigs Approved, and you know what I mean? You could tell within the first 5 minutes that I was a fan.
Yeah, and that makes a big difference.
It sure does.
For both of you.
Well, yes.
For both of you.
Especially for them.
Yeah.
Because what I discovered, not with Steve, because Steve is Steve.
He's such a lovely guy, man. I'm just off the charts nice.
When we became friends, I stayed at his house a few times and got to know his family. And
I'm totally not surprised.
I mean, and I used to go in the early 80s. So, before I met him, let's say 1980, I think Industry Standard came out, Dixie Dregs. But very shortly thereafter, the Steve Morse Band album came out. I think Industry Standard was the last Dregs record.
It's such a good record.
Blood-Sucking Leeches. That record's amazing.
Yeah.
But anyway, So he would play at the Lone Star Cafe in New York City, which most people don't know. It was a tiny place, a legendary place, but it was very, very tiny. It had been an automat, like in the 30s, which is, for people who don't know what that is, the sandwiches were behind these little glass, doors. Put your quarter in and the door would open and you get a sandwich. Chock full of nuts.
Was it Horn and Hard Art? Yeah.
And so 13th Street and 5th Avenue. So it was very narrow. Right in the corner is a revolving door, and you'd walk in, and the bar's on the left and stage is on the right, and literally maybe 10 feet or so, 12 feet at the most, between the edge of the stage and the bar.
Wow.
And then you'd walk back about 25, 30 feet, and then the rest of it opened up, and there was the restaurant. But shows were at 8 o'clock. I'd get there at 6 o'clock. No one was there. And I would just plant myself like Steve Morse's knees were going to be here, or or whoever, Jimmy Vaughan and the Thunderbirds, 1982. The guy was going to be right there. And if I had to, while I was standing in the spot for 2 hours, mind you, before the show, and I needed a beer.
I was going to say, you didn't have drink tickets, that.
It was like I glued my feet to the floor, so I would go like this, back to the bar. You're like Mr. Fantastic with my leg. And one day I'm standing there, and Steve was playing a couple nights in a row, and his pedal board was a piece of plywood with just shit duct tape to it, including his Con Strobo tuner, which was, that's what people used in those days, this thing that was like the size of a giant lunchbox. And anyway, I'm looking at it, and this voice says over my shoulder, just looks like a big pile of shit, right? And it was Steve.
That's funny.
He was coming in he just got out of the cab,
That's funny.
So, anyway, the point is that's what I did. And we're talking about managers and, rudeness. And because this is what I did, and I, play guitar, every time the guys I was interviewing, once we got into guitar playing, they didn't want to stop. Right. So the publicists just doing their jobs, their managers would come in and go, hey, you've got USA Today or Rolling Stone and I can't say how many times, Craig, whether it was Brian Setzer, Mike McCready, Dean and Robert DeLeo, Stone Temple Pilot, right. Billy Corgan, they would go, no, I'm enjoying this. I'm going to do this. Don't come back. Leave me alone, man. And I was the hated one because they can't direct their anger toward the artist.
Of course,
They work for the artist. So the most classic one was a Pearl Jam, Mike McCready. And Mike didn't want to be interviewed. He just wanted to jam. He already knew me, so he knew I could play. So I come in, and I had my guitar. I had this guitar, which we'll get to. Uh-huh. And he was in bed. He had a Gibson Hummingbird. And first thing, he's like, oh, let's just jam, man.
Wait a minute. He was in bed?
He was in bed in his hotel room.
I was going to say, it must have been a pretty big friggin' hotel room to be interviewing you in a...
No, it was like a suite. And so the room I went into the interview was his bed.
Okay.
I guess. He was in bed.
Yeah. I guess that's rock star life, man. I'm probably not going to be in bed when someone comes over, but that's just me.
I know. I'm not in bed right now, as you could tell. So I was like, well, okay. So we started to jam. I used to bring this little tiny battery-powered amp that everybody played through that I ever interviewed. I should have had everybody sign it. It would be nuts.
Like the pig nose or something like that?
Well, it was like a pig nose, but it was in battery-powered. But it's called Guitar Buddy. And made in Katy, Texas. And it was my wife's, so thank God she owned it because I wouldn't have had it to use.
Yeah.
And anyway, So we played for a while, and I was like, well, Mike, I really got to interview you. You know, they're going to throw me out of here. And he's like, oh, okay. And then we would talk for like 10 minutes, and he'd go, come on, man, let's just jam, you know. I want to jam. Like, I'm sick of talking to reporters, you know, like. And so, like, eventually the manager guys come in, and they're like, okay, you know. And Mike's like, no. Like, I went. And the third time the guy came in, screaming at me.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here. What the fuck are you doing? And Mike's just sitting there smiling. I'm looking at Mike.
Yeah, man. I'm so like.
So, you know, I was
that.
like, Mike, I think I gotta go, you know, and he's like, oh, okay, you know.
Wow. It's good that he at least spoke up a few times, because a lot of people won't speak up. I don't know why.
Dean DeLeo was great from Stone Temple Pilots. By the way, those are like the nicest guys ever.
The DeLeo brothers.
And I mean, I'm a huge fan. Those guys are so talented. Coolest people. I mean, the coolest. And when the girl came in the second time, Dean said to her, look, I'm doing this. I'll come and get you when we're done.
Good for him. That's awesome.
It's really pretty cool. He's like, no, I'm into this.
Good for him, man.
And then he went, I don't want to, he said, he goes, you know what's next? He's like, USA Today, you know? He goes, they don't know anything. Like, it's going to be all the same goddamn
it's going to be a generic interview, you know.
And all the guys would say that.
How's the tour going? Where did you think of your last song? Where do you get your ideas from?
Way worse. Way worse.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, when Scott Weiland was in rehab, what did you do? You know, like, that's every, or, you know, tell us about your drug problems. You know, it's like, you know, like, they didn't want to, they had a guy going, what the hell chords are you playing in the intro to Plush? Like, it's amazing.
Yeah.
You know? And he's like, I'll show you that.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
He's like, you're right. That's really fucking cool. So anyway. All right. I was an art fanatic. Meanwhile, growing up in this environment of music that was amazing. And my mom was really, really, like, as a very young kid, she started taking me to painting classes, got me a teacher. I mean,
your mom sounds great, man.
Well, my mom was an amazing person.
Yeah. Did you have brothers or sisters, or just
one sister, one older sister, just 2.5 years older? And you know, my dad was great too. He just wasn't against any of it, you know. He was for it, but she was anyway. So art just was the thing for me. But then, you know, when I was turning 8, the Beatles were on Ed Sullivan, February 64. And that was like this cataclysmic moment for anybody. You know, I was born in 56, so it was still a cataclysmic moment for anybody, whatever their age. They could have been born in 36. You know, some people saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, and they could see that it was this, you know, completely culture shifting, international, you know, phenomenon. And, you know, the guitar was there, like I said, from the beginning. I had learned, started banging on it, got my golden Beatles songbook, you know, with all the wrong chord shapes in it, which eventually led to me wanting to write out the transcriptions myself.
Oh, okay.
Make them correct, because I was like, nobody wants to play like this B chord, you know, like
right
the way it was in every book. My little 10-year-old fingers couldn't do it, and it sounded horrible. And I'm like, that's not what George Harrison's playing. This is all a bunch of malarkey. You know, when does that start? Your distrust for, you know, fake news.
Distrust for fake news?
Distrust for the establishment. You know what I mean? I had my golden Beatles book, and I was like, these aren't the chords. Like, they're lying. Like, they don't know.
It's puberty, man. right? Like around puberty, it
You
starts.
start going, these people that are older, they don't know nothing. You know,
Yeah, around puberty.
you find out later that most of them know a lot.
Yes,
You're the one who knows nothing.
absolutely.
But anyway, so, but all through elementary school and junior high, high school, and then when it came time to go to college, I mean, I played guitar, but all my friends were like way far superior guitar players to me. Like I knew like a Mick Taylor lick that I learned from Midnight Rambler on Get Your Eyes Out, and like a Leslie West lick, and like that was it.
Hey man, you picked two of the best, most soulful blues guys
Still
around.
my favorites, yeah. But those were like, because Hendrix was too hard. You know, like I learned to play Hey Joe, but when it came to soloing and stuff, the Mick Taylor stuff he plays on the breakdown of Midnight Rambler from Get Your Eyes was some of the first.
What a great album, man.
I mean, I still remember, you know, this is not the right tone for it or anything, but, you know, it's going like, where does it go?
There you go.
And then he goes like, you know, something like that. You know, that was like some of the first licks. I was like, yeah, man, like I love it. And I remember seeing B.B. King on the Mike Douglas show when Thrill Is Gone came out. So
yeah,
maybe I was 12, like 68. That was it. I mean, that was it. It was like, there's nothing cooler than that, you know? I mean, I was like the 335, you know, it's red 335. I was like, oh my God, you know?
yeah.
So anyway, I go to college.
Where'd you go to school? Where'd you go to art school?
Well, again, I apologize for all my, you know, tangentialness, but
this must be like relieving to you that you're like, you don't have to, like you could do it. I'm like, not, I mean, I know you've done a lot of interviews, but it must be like nice not to have to run the interview.
Oh, I don't know. I feel sorry for you.
No, I'm fine. This is cool. No, this is cool. This
Way
is
too much crap. Way too much crap.
But where you grew up?
I grew up in Queens. I grew up in Queens,
okay.
New York, in a town called Little Neck, which was the easternmost town in Queens. Not, you know, like 3 blocks east from there is the border to Long Island.
Gotcha.
So, you know, anybody who's from Queens, they hate it when somebody accuses them of being from Long Island, because you go, no, man. It's 5 boroughs. It's a borough. Hello. It's not Long Island.
Yeah.
You know, and they go, same landmass. And you're like, so is the United States, you know, not lucky either. Anyway. So
that was the I think that was the phrase. Wasn't that like the national, what is it called? The motto, Queens, it ain't Kentucky?
I hope it wasn't. Queens, it is Kentucky would have been more accurate.
Well, I'm from the Bronx, so you know, anything is Kentucky compared to that.
If you're from the Bronx, then you make fun of Queens. And, you know, and that's the other thing about the boroughs. It was so cool. Like any other borough sucked when you were a kid. You know, you're like Brooklyn. What a bunch of morons.
Except Manhattan.
Manhattan, forget it. That like
was
the golden place.
Right. That was the
go west, young man.
Yeah, that was the.
You would sneak, Craig. We would sneak into New York City when I was 12. It's 1968. You know, like couldn't tell your parents that you were going to go take the bus,
really
subway, and sneak into Manhattan. You're 12 years old.
Yeah, I used to do that all the time.
Oh God, man! I mean, to walk on 6th Avenue and 8th Street in 1968.
Yeah, I'm a little younger than you, but yeah, it was great.
There was like a Needix on the corner,
The whole place.
Before they built Electric Lady, and then when they built Electric Lady, and it was with a curved brick, and it was brand new. Oh my, no, Manhattan was this magical place.
Yeah.
And it really was a magical place. That wasn't pretend.
No, it was amazing.
In 66 or 7, 60, was it 66? Yeah, probably not that early, but sometime around then, my folks took us. There was a show, off-Broadway show called You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, based on Charlie Brown. And it was before Laugh-In.
Right.
A lot of the Laugh-In people were in the show.
Oh, that's cool.
Joanne Worley,
Yeah, I remember
who used to go like this.
Yep. Remember her.
She was in the show. But it was on McDougal Street, the theater. We walked past the Electric Circus. Okay? So let's say it's 1967.
See, that's a cool time. I wasn't around then.
Yeah, and I'm 11.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Past this scary-looking building with crazy light show and pounding music coming through the doors. And see, I mean, you want to talk about like, you're like, I need to go in there. And then what also comes to mind is, like I said, my mom was very much encouraging for art. She had a close friend that was a painter, so I went and took painting lessons from her friend, who I could walk to their house. They lived in the next town. And it was in her backyard. She had like a little studio. It was really just me and this other guy. Now, this is 1968, and so I'm 12. And even though she and her husband were the same age as my parents, they were not like my parents. I mean, my parents were, I don't know, cool enough. But these people, Phyllis and Irving Hirschberg, would go to the Village on weekends and go, like they were really into, Oh Calcutta, or like, which was nude theater.
So like they would go down there and party and drink and have fun.
I don't know how much partying and drinking, but they would go. They were curious. A lot was happening culturally.
God, yeah.
In the 60s. And she was an artist and they were into it. So they weren't like partiers. It was much more like, what's the living theater, like what's the scene club? Like they weren't afraid to go. They were curious. Yeah. I mean, it seems really silly. They were like 40 years old, So like, maybe a little older. But still, something tells me when you were 45, you weren't thinking about like not going to a club to see a band play.
No, of course not. Of course not.
That's how old they were. So they may have grown up in the Depression, but they were like, there's a lot of cool stuff going on in New York City.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Anyway, so she comes in one day. I mean, it's just like this very straight, Jewish lady who was a painting teacher, my mom's friend. And she's like, oh, we went to this place called the Electric Circus last night. And we saw this guy. This show is called The Crazy World of Arthur Browne. And believe me, as soon as I left, I went and bought the record.
Yeah.
I am the god of hellfire.
And I bring you.
Burn. Fire. I bid you burn.
Do you know he still tours?
No, I have more. As always. So she goes, oh, it's crazy. You know who his drummer was for a while? Carl Palmer.
Well, I'm not surprised because he was on tour with Carl. They were touring together. It was Arthur Browne and Carl Palmer. Recently, yeah. I think Ron Thal was Arthur Brown's guitar player. Yeah. For that tour.
Yeah, I think you're right. It does sound familiar. Carl's not on the record to my knowledge. He didn't make the album, but he did do part of the tour. I mean, Arthur Browne, man, like what a trip. I mean, he got thrown off the Hendrix tour for being too crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
He graduated from having the crown that was fire. He wanted to have his whole suit go up in flames. So he had this like aluminum suit made that they could light on fire. And I think he did that. And they were like, you're like, talk about fired. You're fired.
Yeah.
like, get out. You're too crazy. And you can watch it, and I encourage everyone to do it. If you look up on YouTube the original like video for Fire, the song
From
like
Arthur Browne,
where it's like black and white and just somebody with a camera, and he has to lip sync. He's like laughing hysterically through the whole thing, like how ridiculous it is, you know. I mean, he's basically got like kabuki makeup on, and he's wearing this, you know, crown that's made out of real fire.
nothing's changed. He
But
still
he's
has.
genuinely laughing, which
Yeah.
was really interesting. No one's laughing while they're making their, everybody, you know what I mean? Like people are like, I'm a serious artist. And he's like, you should watch it. It's great. It's the most natural. He's like, this is so sick. I got to meet him. I played with Dickey Betts, the longest running outdoor rock festival, the Hertzberg Festival in Breitenbach, Germany.
Yeah.
Predated Woodstock by a year. It started in 1968. They've been doing it every year, I believe, since. Still, to this day. It's still, Hertzberg Festival still happens. So we went with Betts. I don't know what year it was, 2008 or 9, something like that. And, you know, it was like Ian Anderson's Jethro Tull and Wishbone Ash. And, you know, it was cool. And we're in the German countryside there. And it was in the middle of nowhere, and there was this gigantic hotel, and everybody was in the hotel, meaning all the bands. And then pretty much many of the attendees stayed in this hotel, like gigantic hotel, because we were really in the middle of nowhere, Breitenbach, Germany. And so the bar was on the 5th floor of the hotel, and I'm sitting at the bar with Dickey, and this woman comes over, this older woman from Vienna, and she was very nice, and she was talking to us. And Dickey was very polite, but then he, you know, he wasn't that interested in talking to her. I think he wandered off. So she says, oh, come with me and meet my friends. And I was like, great.
Yeah. So
we walk, and there's in the back like a table, and she goes, let me introduce you to my friends, Brian Auger and Arthur Browne.
How wild is that? Did you tell Arthur you saw him?
Well, what do I do? So I didn't finish the Arthur story. So what she told me, what Phyllis Hertzberg told me, she goes, so we walk in, and the music's blasting, and the curtains open, and there's nothing on stage. There's no musicians. There's nothing. There's deafening music, and you're looking at nothing, you know? And then this crane slowly comes down with Arthur singing on the crane, you know, and we're 12. We're listening to this like, you know,
yeah, coolest thing ever. Yeah.
Like, I mean, you're not on Earth, right?
Right. Yeah.
You've left the planet for, you know, it's unbelievable. All right. So then she's like, this Arthur Browne. So what do I do? Whatever. Probably. I just look at him and I go, I am the god of Hellfire. I bid you to burn.
That's what you said to him when you met him in Germany?
Of course.
That's so funny. Well, what did he say?
I am the god of Hellfire. He was just laughing.
That's so funny.
He's the nicest guy. He like
most successful people are very nice.
I have a saying: nobody builds a better hippie than the Germans. German hippies are better hippies than any hippies.
Uli John Roth.
What?
Uli John Roth. Yeah.
I got to be friends with Uli.
Perfect example. Yeah.
I love Uli.
Yeah.
Uli's hysterical, man. What a trip. I love that guy. Anyway, so, and Brian Auger, you know, who is, as some people know, you know, very successful at the time in the 60s, organist. He played blues and jazz, you know, like when the British blues bloom was happening. First guy Hendrix jammed with
was Brian Auger. I didn't know that.
And Chas Chandler asked Brian to join the band. They wanted it to be a 4-piece band.
And he didn't want to.
He had Trinity with Julie Driscoll, and they had successful records.
Okay.
Brian Auger and Trinity featuring Julie Driscoll, and they were on the radio, and they sold records. And he's like, why would I give that up? He's telling me the story.
Yeah, that's quite funny, man.
In 2009, he's telling me the story. Like,
no, why would he give it up to go with a new artist?
This is 43 years later. He's telling me the story.
It's pretty wild.
This skinny black guy with acne, who was definitely a good guitar player.
Yeah.
He didn't have any songs. You know, they played like Land of a Thousand Dances or something, you know, he just jammed. So he's like, I wasn't going to quit my successful. But anyway,
no, he's got a gig, of course.
So I asked Arthur Browne, I go, so I heard the story that you were lowered on a crane. Like, is that really what the deal was? And he was like, oh yeah. He goes, you have no idea. Like, the clubs hated me. Nobody wanted to do the crane, you know. He was like,
kind of like you can understand that.
Yes. He was like, it was a nightmare, like getting people to do that. And anyway, so Arthur Browne. So this is the most roundabout. So I skipped a grade in elementary school. I skipped third grade. I went from second grade to fourth grade because they said I had advanced reading because nothing with my mom. She was an English teacher, and so she was giving me great expectations and Moby Dick to read when I was like 7, which
that's cool.
I couldn't read. I mean,
no, but if you're starting with that, then anything else is going to be pretty.
Oh God, it was. I didn't know it was.
And seed spot run is probably not going to be that challenging.
No, yeah, she's like, oh, try this. You know, it's impossible.
Yeah.
But anyway, whether I got lucky the day I took my reading test, or some of it was actually valid that my reading skills were better than my age group, I don't know. But they skipped me. So now I get to 12th grade in high school. They say you can graduate early, a semester early. You could graduate in December if you double up on English. I said, yeah. So I went to college when I was 16.
Holy shit.
Which was young.
Very young.
And was playing guitar some, but University of Hartford had an art.
That's a very good school.
You know, we could talk about high school guidance teachers and whether
that was a good state school, University of Hartford. No, I'm sorry. You know what? University of Connecticut was. That's what
UConn.
Yeah.
I mean, University of Hartford is a great university for certain things. It's more known as the business school part of it, and then the Hart School of Music is
right.
The university, which is a very respected conservatory, which then in later years, like most music colleges, expanded to jazz and other forms of music. But in 1973, I mean, it was classical music, a lot of modern classical music. What I didn't know, Jackie McLean, you know, the jazz saxophone player.
No, I don't know him. So
Jackie McLean is one of the greatest. There's a song on the Miles Davis Milestone album. First song, it's called Dr. Jackal.
Yes,
and the story is Jackie really wrote it. It's really a Jackie McLean song that Miles, somehow his name ended up on
it. Somehow.
Yeah, because it's recorded on, Miles first recorded it as Dr. Jekyll. And it's fantastic. You got to hear it. It might be on Birth of the Cool, or it's on Dig. It's on one of the early Miles on Prestige. But anyway, Jackie McLean was a teacher. And Chris Jensen, who I played with Dickey Betts, who I still play with sometimes, Jackie McLean was his teacher. He went to the University of Hartford. You know, Jackie McLean is, you know, I mean, if you have John Coltrane and then you have like everybody else, Jackie McLean is everybody else. And anyway, the guy in the next room from me was a senior graduating. He was like 22. I'm 16. Named Tom Mariano, and he was like the star musician of the Hart School of Music, piano player. And he had this tiny little room, his own room. Had a Rhodes in there, Fender Rhodes. And he would put on like a Chick Corea album, like Now He Sings, Now He Sobs, or a Keith Jarrett album. And he would say, you play like the beginning of like a song like Matrix from Now He Sings, Now He Stops. And then he'd lift the needle and he would go, this is how it's played. Like he would just do it for fun. We would get really stoned. And he would, I mean, people would go to Tom's room just to hang out, smoke a bunch of pot, and he would just play. He would just do these dissertations because he loved it. So he was a guru. He was like the first guy that I was around that lived and breathed music 24 hours a day and was in this blissful state, which was like, if you have music, like you don't need anything.
And weed.
Weed is helpful. But, you know, sometimes we didn't have any weed. And, you know, be like, anybody have any glue? You know? but he was, so then I go back to my room and I start playing guitar like 6-7 hours a day. Because of Tom.
You got inspired by that guy, seeing what he could do, and you said, "Hey, I need to be able to do this on guitar."
Guitar, let's play. Like he would want to play with me.
Yeah.
He that bass in his room. He'd say, "Yeah," and he plays stand-up bass. I go, "Tom, I don't know how to play stand-up bass." He'd go, "I don't care." So I'm like banging away, and he's playing to me, like he's jamming to like
wow.
what I'm doing. No, he was just this force, you know, it was really great. I mean, it was like 100% positive. Like music is it, you know, have a glass of water, eat food sometimes, and just play and listen to music and everything's fine. So I was there for 5 months, one semester, was rejected, thank God, by the University of Hartford Art School. It's the best thing that ever happened to me. And ultimately the following September went to School of Visual Arts in Manhattan starting in 1973. So who wouldn't want to be in New York City every day in 73?
Where was that? Where's that located?
There were 2 buildings at the time. There's more now. The main building was 23rd and 3rd. And then this other building, which starting in second year, you'd spend most of your time. Second, third, and fourth year, you'd be over at the 21st Street building.
You know, it's funny. I went to Baruch, and it was right around the corner. It was like 23rd and Lex.
Oh man, well, you're a block away.
Yeah, literally.
So, but you know, like you go to Soho, and Soho was nothing. It was art galleries and artist residence.
Yeah.
So obviously it was a lot better to be in New York City studying art than, Hartford, Connecticut,
yeah,
hotbed of the cutting edge of the art world in 1973. I don't think so. And the teachers that I had, many went on to become really important artists. One in particular, Jonathan Borofsky, got known for these, I can't remember what he called them, these gigantic steel sculptures of like guys like who looked like they were chiseling things, and they were like called like working men or carving men or something like that.
Sure.
Anyway, Borofsky was like an art teacher who had like $10 to his name, and he was our teacher. He was a cool guy. And so this cataclysmic thing happened to me, meeting Tom, playing guitar all the time, going through a very tumultuous period of time in my life because I thought I was going to have a nervous breakdown being at college at 16 years old.
Oh, because you had no coping skills. That's way too young, man. I mean, you got no coping skills when you're 18 and 19 there anyway. But to be 16, that's got to be really tough.
19-year-old girls can be pretty intimidating, even when you're 19.
Even when you're 19. Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
They're the scariest creatures.
Yeah, I'm sure. I can understand.
And like people head tripping you, and I'm 16, it took a minute to like.
Yeah.
More than a minute. But anyway, so I come back, and basically what got me through it was playing guitar. Like once I started to play guitar for 6 or 7 hours a day, I stopped worrying about the outside world as much, you know, and thankfully was accepted to the School of Visual Arts and started in September. But the funny thing was, so now I'm back. It's like middle of May. I'd only been gone since January. I go to my friend's house, who's like the best guitar player in town. Guy I'm still friends with now. You know, we've been friends for 53 years or something. Still play together. And I pick up his guitar and I start to play. He goes, "What the fuck happened to you? How did you learn to play the guitar?"
Oh, that's right.
He was pissed off. Because I had just been jamming to Hendrix like endlessly. So I did learn how to play. So he was angry. He was like, "This is bullshit." But I wondered for a few years what happened to Tom Mariano, because the guy was so brilliant. And starting around 1978, this guy started to play with Frank Zappa.
I heard this story. It's a good story. Go ahead.
And Tommy Mars. And, you know, Tommy Mars was Frank Zappa's keyboard player. And he happened to be Tom Mariano, but the thing was, in college, Tom had a beard and he was heavy. Tommy Mars, if you watch the Baby Snakes movie or you see pictures, was thin and didn't have a beard. And he was Tommy Mars. And when I'd go to Zappa shows, believe me, I wasn't sitting in the front row, you know?
Yeah.
You know, Tommy was this big, you know, and he was Tommy Mars. All the while, I'm still wondering, what would have happened to Tom Mariano? Like, that guy was so amazing.
But you had to connect with him at some point, no?
So in 1981, one of the Zappa Halloween, you know, multiple nights he would do at the Palladium.
Yeah, he did that every year in the city, I think.
Every
right?
year, starting at the Fell Forum. First one I went to was 74 on actual Halloween. And that was the Roxy and Elsewhere band, you know, with Ruth Underwood, Chester Thompson, Ralph Humphreys on two drummers, Fowler Brothers, Bruce, oh, come on. Can't think of the other Fowler Brothers' name. Walt Fowler on trombone, Bruce on bass. Amazing band. Any fan of Zappa. Frank used to get mad because everybody said the Roxy and Elsewhere band was the best band he ever had. And he would get pissed off and say, all my bands are different and there's no better band. There's no best band.
Okay.
George Duke. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's a pretty fucking good band.
It might have been his best band. Sorry, Frank. Pretty good band. And anyway, that particular show, I happen to have second row. So I go in before the show. There's Tommy Mars on stage talking to people in the front row. Of course, it's Tommy Mars. I'm at a Frank Zappa show. Grew his beard back, and he gained some weight back.
So you knew right away?
No, not right away. Because it's Tommy Mars. You know, like, you know, I mean, I've been seeing him as Tommy Mars.
Okay.
And then it starts dawning on me during the show. I'm looking at him, and I'm like, oh, my God. Like, this is Tom Mariano. Tommy Mars. Like, come on. And all night, back and forth. It's him, it's not him, it's him, it's not him. I'm trying to remember, like, him playing in college. And, like, if that's the same guy. So I go back the next day in the afternoon. It's like late afternoon. I know they're in there, like, sound checking. And I go to the stage door around on 13th Street. And I write this ridiculous note. It makes no sense. And I beg them to bring it to him. So I went to college with Tommy. It hadn't been that many years. It was like 8 years before. So I said, please hand him this note. And it was like, hi, it's Andy. I was in the next room and my hair was down to my knees and we used to jam sometimes. And anyway, I'm outside and it would be nice to say hello.
That's fine.
And he comes out with Ed Mann, the percussionist, who I didn't know, but he was at Hart School of Music too with Tom, same time. And he's like, oh yeah, like as soon as he saw me,
Yeah.
he's like, oh yeah, I remember you. Like, he's like, how are you doing? And so he told me, and it's a very famous show. He goes, we're going to do a show. It's not going to be advertised till the day of the show. It was like first week in November, like a week later.
Yeah.
At the Ritz. And he goes, we're not going to announce it to the day of the show. It's going to sell out in like a half hour. But like, call this number and you could get tickets. And it's a famous show because it was broadcast on WLIR on the radio. It's very findable today. 3 hours and 15 minutes nonstop. I saw that.
That was a great theater. That's not around anymore, unfortunately. That was a really good club.
But I saw Frank about 12 times. That was the best Frank Zappa show. Al Di Meola came out and played and was phenomenal. And there's stuff from that show that I think ended up on the Ship Arriving Too Late to Save a Drowning Witch album, because some of the tracks in that album are live. Frank loved to mix live in studio, which is what he did on One Size Fits All on like Inca Roads.
I love that song. That's my favorite album, favorite Zappa record.
Yeah, man. And I got to become friends with Dweezil because I was asked to do transcription books of some of Frank's albums.
Okay.
And Hal Leonard, they didn't know, you got a guy with a 60 album catalog. They asked me, they said, what they call them matching folios, a book of an album.
Sure.
We're like, what album should we do? I said, well, we got to do Hot Rats, an Apostrophe, One Size, Overnight Sensation, One Size Fits All. I was like, but to me, like, it's hard to pick, but I was thinking of like the songs and the guitar playing. I'm like, we got to do Hot Rats and we got to do Apostrophe. And Craig, I made like $1 an hour. It was so much work.
I can't imagine. That's got to be like a labor of love, man. That is.
I wrote out all the vocals on St. Alfonso's Pancake Breakfast, like 5-part vocal harmony, which it's in the vaults, and they use those charts to this day for
their own performances.
For performances,
yeah.
for orchestral.
I'm not surprised, because that stuff is, it's not like hundreds of guys even have the ability to do, let alone the time and then the ability. It's very complicated.
I did the best I could. I can tell you that I did a transcription of Peaches when Frank was alive, sent it to him because he had to approve it, 1984.
Right. And
Steve Vai, who was playing with him,
I was going to say, Vi's the only guy.
I met Vi in 79. Vi is I don't know if you've ever met Steve.
I had him on the show here, yeah.
He's the best, right?
Great guy. Really nice person. Incredible. Extremely nice. Him, Satriani, both of those guys. Exactly. First class.
No, absolutely.
First class.
They're so different from each other, too.
Oh, yeah. But they're both very giving, genuine, nice people.
Oh, yeah. Right. Really, no. I was going to say down to earth. Steve is less down to earth. He's no less nice, friendly, warm, generous, and compassionate. Yeah. But he's definitely, he lives in this sort of, he's very spiritual.
Yeah, very much.
Where Joe has the perfect name. He's Joe. He's a Joe. He's like Joe. He has no time for any of that stuff. There's no mystery. Like, you're talking about stuff. He's like, just stop already. Just practice. Just play guitar. You know what I mean? Like, just try to do good.
Hey, let me ask you this. How did you get hooked up with Dickey in the first place? It's really funny. I have his son coming on the show.
I apologize from this.
I gotta rein you in a little bit here, Andy.
Think?
A little bit. Yeah, we'll be here till my birthday in November.
You asked for it, correct? I'm gonna move this so I can move me.
No, relax. Take it easy. How did you get hooked up with Dickey? Who? Let me tell you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Nobody does. This is a redundant statement, but nobody does Dickey Betts like Dickey Betts. What he does on guitar, highly influential on me as a player. And I didn't realize this until I started playing, which is only about 4 years ago now. But what a player, man.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, when Phil Maurice came out, I think it's one of those things like you try to remember. I think I heard Statesboro Blues on the radio, and that was, there's this
WABC.
No, but it was FM radio because it was 71 by then.
Okay.
But if we start talking about AM radio, and
no,
MCA, the Good Guys, and
no.
my drummer had a Good Guys sweatshirt. I met Cousin Brucey in 1970.
I remember that guy.
Cousin Brucey's still alive.
Yeah, he is.
He's still wearing the same toupee. So he looks the same. I dated a girl that worked at NBC. That's a whole other. I went to every Saturday Night Live in 76 and 77.
Oh, that was such a great show then.
That's how I met Frank Zappa.
Okay.
And I met Ray Davies from the Kinks, and I met a lot of Elliot Randall.
Oh, yeah.
See him a lot because he was playing with Boz Scaggs when Silk Degrees came out. Like his solo on Lowdown is famous. Of course, his solo on Reelin' in the Years is very famous.
A little more famous, but yeah.
Elliot's great, man. A great dude. His strat was so much like mine, his beat-up strat, that he had a humbucking pickup in. Elliot was cool, man. But what was my point going to be now? I was in an elevator at NBC, and the doors open, and Cousin Brucey gets in the elevator. He was coming from the NBC commissary. He had a lunch tray, and he had 2 giant coffees and 2 big pieces of apple pie. And I go, looks like a great lunch. Typical wise ass. And he just went into his Cousin Brucey. Like we're going up however many floors. And then he got to a store and he was like, see you later. And like, I didn't say, it was just, I got the full Cousin Brucey. It was like the greatest.
That's funny, man.
But anyway, so I buy Phil Maurice, and I dug it. I was a little bit, when you're 18 years old, how old was I in 71? I was 15. When you're 15 years old, you could be a little fascist in your listening tastes when you're younger. Sometimes I think out of necessity, because you would just want to focus on what you want to learn. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I didn't want to. I loved the Allman Brothers, and I thought they were great, and I was learning how to play slide guitar. So that had everything to do with my interest in the Allman Brothers was Dwayne's slide guitar playing. And let's not forget that Layla came out very shortly thereafter, which to me was just tremendous. And I had been a huge Cream Eric Clapton fan from when Cream first showed up, when Ascension of Your Love was the first thing I heard on AM radio, 67. Forget it. Eric it was like the Beatles, and the Stones. And then it was like Cream. I didn't know who played what.
Right.
Yeah, like if you could tell me Ginger Baker was a guitar player, I would have believed you. I didn't know anything.
How would you? You had no frame of reference.
I'm 12, like I'm 11 and 12. I don't know anything, but I would put on I'm So Glad, and listen to this 12-minute jam, and it was just the greatest thing I ever heard in my life. It was like, this is like Hendrix, except it's like 6 songs. That one song, it never ends. It's like the greatest thing ever. And anyway, so yeah, I mean, I was very influenced by Dickey Betts, and I got the first album, the studio album, which I actually at the time liked even more. I loved the Allman Brothers studio album with Don't Want You No More, Ain't My Cross There, Dreams, Black-Hearted Woman.
It's a great record. That's the album with the blonde little boy and girl on the front cover.
No. That's Brothers and Sisters. That's
Well, okay.
Now, the first album was just them standing on the street.
Okay.
And it was produced by Adrian Barber. It's the only one that wasn't produced by Tom Dowd. It's just tremendous album to this day. It's just tremendous. Like Greg singing on Every Hungry Woman is just sick. It's sick. The whole record. No, so I was listening to the Allman Brothers Band album much. I listened to Phil Maurice. Well, it's hard to say. I listen to them every day. All of
sure.
But anyway, but I was really a Hendrix freak, and my first band was a trio I formed in '74, and we played 30 Hendrix songs. I'm not exaggerating.
Holy crap!
Like we played all the, Purple Haze and Manic Depression, and Foxy Lady, and Voodoo Child. But we played Lover Confusion, Third Stone from the Sun.
You played deep cuts.
Ain't No Tellin', Little Miss Lover, She's So Fun, to the point of like, War Heroes comes out and we'd play Three Little Bears, Catastrophe.
Yeah, those are some very deep cuts, man.
Bleeding Heart, Look Over Yonder. No, we would play and people would say, wow, whose song is that? And we go, Hendrix.
You just played 30.
Play another song. Wow, whose song is that? Hendrix. Play Jam Back at the House. I mean, if Jimi Hendrix put it on a record, my band would try to play it. And anyhow.
Dickey Betts.
I never met Dickey. And now we're up to like 2000. So by then I'd been writing for guitar magazines for 15 years. I'd met a lot of really famous guitar players by then. I mean, like I said, I had met Jeff Beck already. Johnny Winter, I'd interviewed a variety of times and loved him, and he was great. He was a great person. I got to be friends with him, which was, to me, completely crazy. We'd go to Johnny Winter's house and sit around playing Dobros with him. Just
in Connecticut?
Living room. Easton, Connecticut, yeah. Johnny was a trip, man. He was such a good guy. Very opinionated. He yelled at me on a few occasions, but in a very sort of avuncular, like, your uncle getting mad at you. I opened for him a few times. So one time it was at BB King's, and we're done, and we're doing the Chinese fire drill, getting our stuff off stage, and he's getting his stuff on the stage, or his manager and crew. And his manager runs past me, Paul Nelson, and he's like, Johnny walked in when you were playing. He says, you sound real good. And I was like, oh, cool. Next time he passes, he goes, he's in his dressing room. Go say hello to him. I'm like, all right. And I go in, hey, Johnny. And he looks at me and goes, what guitar are you playing? And I go, I'm playing my Les Paul. He goes, you're a Strat guy. And I go, well, yeah, I am a Strat guy. I felt like playing my Les Paul tonight. And he's just like, look at me. I go, you want to see it? He's like, yeah. So I bring him my Les Paul, and he couldn't see that well. So he's like holding the guitar up like this too. He's like, man, this is nice. And he's like sitting there playing my Les Paul. But anyway, so I'd never met Betts. I'd been friends with Warren Haynes for a long time. I met Warren in 1990.
What a great guitar player, man.
Great guitar player, really wonderful guy, very generous guy. In 2003, before I started playing with Betts, he invited me to sit in with the Allman Brothers at the Beacon, and I did. And
that's nice.
That was so exciting. Standing next to Greg, I was always flipping out, man. I was like, "You got."
Oh, when the brothers, the brothers, yeah, okay, not as Mule.
No, the Allman Brothers, one of their March runs at the Beacon.
Yeah, I've seen one of those, and I've seen the Mule's New Year's run as well. They're great, just incredible shows.
Oh, I played New Year's with at the Beacon with
great theater, man.
I did the Hendrix tribute tour at the Beacon a few times, and I played with Betts at the Beacon. Playing on the Beacon theater stage is great for every possible reason. A huge one, though, is me being from New York.
Yeah, of course.
Has a lot of meaning for me, and I said it to the audience when I was up there playing with Mitch Mitchell and Billy Cox. I said, I'm from New York. To be standing on the stage, the Beacon, playing music, my favorite music of all, with these people, with Mitch. I said, this is too much. Like, this is the greatest thing that ever happened. I was like, forgive me for having a moment, but, you know. So, anyway, I never met Betts. I was backstage a bunch of times. Dickey's vibe is always like, don't come near me. So I wouldn't. I respected that.
Mm.
But, you know, as everyone knows, he was unceremoniously ejected from the Allman Brothers in 2000. And guitar magazines had been after Dickey for years and years, for decades, to try to get him to write and like do an instructional column.
Yeah.
You know, ghostwritten, of course. They're not expecting him to write it, but participate. And he never would do it. But because he had so much bad press at the time, they, you know, the Allman Brothers were justifying firing him by saying, oh, you know, he's a drug addict and he's unreliable. Like, we can't work with him. You know, we had to fire him. We didn't have a choice, and we didn't want to. Like, whatever. So Guitar World contacted his manager and said, you know, we're willing to give Dickey a page in the magazine every month of his own, have his own column. You know, what better way to show the world Dickey's not crazy? You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, like he's not this, you know.
Or that he is crazy, but he's okay with it because he's writing the column.
Right. Well, but he's not going to, who's going to, you know, be responsible enough to, you know, create a monthly column? You know,
right.
You can't be like this, the way they were describing him.
Right. Right.
Like off the rails guy that no one could work with.
Sure.
And so, and he, you know, when you think about it, he was only 56 years old at the time or something, 57, you know.
Right.
He wasn't an old guy.
No.
But
that's young.
So Alan Paul, my co-writer for the Texas Flood, you know, who ultimately wrote the Allman Brothers biography, One Way Out, Oral History of the Allman Brothers. Alan was already sort of really in with the Allman Brothers camp and had been since through the 90s. So Dickey knew Alan, but he didn't know me. And Guitar World approached, and Dickey said, I'll do it with Alan. But Alan didn't want to do it because he's not really a guitar player, you know. And he said, well, you know, it would really be better if he did it with Andy, because I had been doing that, ghostwriting columns with B.B. King, Eddie Van Halen, Buddy Guy, Billy Corgan, all kinds of people, you know, for all those years.
Sure.
And then all those interview lessons like I described. So me and Alan go to Dickey's hotel. He was playing at Westbury Theater on Long Island. And I meet him.
He's playing solo? Or is he with Great Southern?
He was that particular gig, I think it was 2001 by then. And he had formed the Dickey Betts Band, which was his first post-Allman Brothers band. And but it was a Charlie Daniels resurrected the Volunteer Jam.
Okay.
You know, he had done this thing in the 70s called the Volunteer Jam. And it was like all the Capricorn
guys, yeah.
Yeah. And so that's what it was called at Westbury Volunteer Jam. And Dickey Betts Band. So we go in the afternoon, and Dickey is clearly like, I mean, he's trying to get his shit back together. Like, this was very tough on him, getting thrown out of the Allman Brothers, you know, band that he helped form. I mean, to say that he took it well would not be accurate.
Yeah.
And you know, emotionally and physically, he was not in a great place. But so I met him. He was very intense. He wasn't unfriendly, but he was intense. And he was like, okay, you know, I'll do this with you. And then he was like, we were in his room, you know, he's like, well, leave me alone for a little while, you know, we'll all go to the show together. It was like 2 hours before the show, hour and a half before the show.
Sure.
He goes, you know, I'll get cleaned up. I'll meet you down at the bar. And then, you know, we'll all ride over together. And by the time he came down, you know, he was dressed for the show. He was in a great mood, you know. And we hung out at the bar and had a couple drinks, and he was funny and he was warm. And he was great, like right away. Like,
yeah.
And he was a character, you know. He started shadowboxing with me. Like I'm standing with him and he's about to walk out to play. And he just looks at me and he starts like swinging at me.
Okay.
And Alan was like mortified because he was like, this is bad. And I loved it. I was like, I think it's great.
Right, right.
You know, I was like,
a little unusual to do right before a show, but whatever.
He's Betts, you know, like I took it as a sign of endearment that he.
Well, yeah, right.
Like he was screwing with me. He had a smile on his face.
Right, right.
But he was like, I'm going to punch you, motherfucker, you know. That's Dickey.
Okay.
And so that's 2001. And so now we would talk on the phone. I put his columns together, and we ended up doing like a year and a half's worth of columns. We did like 14, 15 columns.
That's quite a bit.
Called True Grit. And they were very well received, and he was fantastic. And it worked in the sense of people could see the guy's not nuts. The guy's a very intelligent guy. He's a great musician.
He is a great
musician.
musician.
That was our goal, was all due respect to Dickey, you know, like the world needs the other side of the story.
Yeah.
You know, he was great to me, you know, he was great. And so I sent him my first record, Put a Sock in It, which we can plug that. That just got reissued on Long Song Records, 20-year anniversary. It came out in 99. Put a Sock in It. Opening track is a cover of The Stumble by Freddie King.
Great song, man.
So Betts were on the phone one day, and he's like, hey, man, I got your record. And he goes, it's great. I said, oh, thanks. And he goes, man, that first song will knock your hat in the lake. And so I said, if there was ever a chance to sit in with you, man, it would be a great honor. And he goes, well, write down this phone number. This is Mike, the stage manager. Any show that you can make, call Mike in the afternoon, and there'll be a half stack waiting for you.
Oh, that's cool, man.
No one's ever said that to me. I mean, I've had the chance to sit in with a few people, but this open invitation. So for 3 years, I sat in with him. Like,
on and off.
Like at least 20 times.
Oh, wow.
No, I would draw like 100-mile circle on the map. And if it fell within that 100 miles, man, I was there.
That's really cool.
So in 2005, I went sitting with them at the Ridgefield Playhouse in Connecticut. And I would always play 2 songs. And then, you know, Dan Toller would take a break.
Dangerous Dan.
Dan was the best, man. He was very warm.
He passed, didn't he? At a young age, didn't he? Yeah.
ALS, so sad.
Man, you know, my son works in the medical field, and he sees that a lot. And he goes, Dad, this is just the worst, disease to that people would have, man.
It was like my father's uncle. I can't remember. I believe it was my father's uncle when I was a little kid, and we would go to their apartment, and he was in a wheelchair. And that's pretty powerful when you're 6 and 7 years old to be around someone. I didn't understand what was going on.
Sure.
But to say that it was a dark household would not be, inaccurate.
Yeah.
I didn't understand why. I could tell, though, that this guy could barely do anything, and he was in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, it's funny because I sat in with Dickey once, and now this opportunity's coming up. He's at BB King's, And I didn't want to just be presumptuous and show up with my guitar. The first time he had said, bring your guitar and play. I was out at the Talk House out on Long Island. But he would never answer his phone, never call me back. And now it's the day of the show. And I'm like, I'm not showing up with my guitar. Like, that's just too presumptuous. So I go backstage. And he sees me and he's like, hey, where's your guitar? And I go, oh, well, you know. And he goes, don't you want to play? And I go, well, yeah, I want to. He's like, well, then why didn't you bring your guitar? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I go, well, Dickey, I don't want to be presumptuous.
Yeah,
now,
you weren't sure you're being respectful. You know,
like the answer out. He's like, and he goes, well, now you're going to have to play Dan's guitar.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm sorry.
Okay, you know.
I apologize.
Yeah.
I will remember the next time. I'll like anytime I come, I'll bring my guitar.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So there's our pictures of me playing Dan's guitar. Dan was always cool.
Did he play a strat as well?
A red strat.
Yeah.
So March of 2005, and I do the two songs, and I go to take off my guitar, and Dickey goes like this. He goes, like, don't leave. So play another song. I go to take off my guitar. He's like, again, he gives me the look.
Hmm.
And like, I think we played Nobody Knows. Like, I didn't know that song at all.
You know what? He wrote that with John Prestia.
Oh, he did?
You know, John Prestia is Tim McGraw's guitar tech for about 25 years. But John was a really successful musician with a regional band down here. Him and Dickey were good buddies. And so John Prestia was over at Dickey's house one night. Like, he lives or used to live near Sarasota, I think, or Bradenton. And they wrote that song together. It was a top 10 hit. I think that was one of their few actual.
Are you thinking of No One Left to Run With?
Oh, that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, sorry about that. Yes, No One Left to Run
Nobody
With.
Knows is really an amazing song. Sorry, I have to change my position.
No, it's good. I don't know that off the top of my head. I know most of his catalog.
Nobody Knows is on, I don't know, like Shades of Two Worlds or, you know, Back Where It Begins, you know, one of those records from the 90s. But I think the song pissed off Greg because it's basically like taking the template of Whipping Post and writing a new song. It's the same groove. It's in 6/8. But you should listen to it. It's
Nobody Knows. Yeah, I will go back. I know I have
phenomenal song. The lyrics are phenomenal. The lyrical content is basically that, like, nobody knows, like, what's going to happen on this earth. You know, like, you think you know, that we're not all going to die in nuclear proliferation tomorrow, but nobody knows. I mean, they're heavy. The lyrics are heavy. Yeah. And musically, this song is a trip. And live, he added all these parts to it. He would go into Norwegian wood. Like, he would go through these melodies. But he expected the band to harmonize. If he played something and it was presented like this is a theme, like this, it might be in the middle of my guitar solo, but this is a theme. I expect the band to play like a big band orchestra to this theme. No, like, there was a million of those things. I mean, the term head arrangements, you know, comes off the top of your head. And he's a genius at that. Like, just watch any live videos of Dickey Betts from the last.
Oh, I've been a fan of his for years. He's an incredible player, an incredible musician.
You'll see in the middle of guitar solos, he'll play these themes, and then we are like, you know, white on rice. Like he expected it. He'd be pissed off if you didn't.
But you needed to have.
He wanted you instantly 3-part harmonies on that line.
Yeah.
By the second time he played it, some line that you never heard before.
I don't know that Warren wants that, but Warren's very good at that as well, bringing things in the middle of nowhere. And, you know, they're such a tight unit, government. I mean, so tight that they're all like all over it, but he's great at that. One of the best.
Yeah, they were playing. I went to see Mule really early at the Talk House out in the Hamptons in the 90s. It's the only time I ever met Alan Woody. And I can't remember what song they were playing. And then in the middle of the song, they went into it's from Nantucket Sleigh Ride.
Oh, yeah. Great song.
Like in the middle of a Mule song.
They're great at that. Just wonderful.
Warren's really into that, you know. So Betts is like that, you know. Anyway, so I keep trying to leave, and he won't let me leave.
And you're probably thinking, "Holy shit, Dan Toller's back there now. This is not cool."
No, Dan stayed. That was interesting.
Oh, Dan came on stage this time.
Dan didn't have to leave because I'd always have my own rig.
Oh, okay.
Usually Dan would leave because he would like allow me the featured guest for 2 songs. But he didn't leave, and so he stayed. And there was no animosity. Dan couldn't be more generous to me. But so I'm playing a solo, and Dickey comes over and he puts his arm around me while I'm soloing. And then I have a picture of it. And it was pretty prophetic because 2 months later, I'm standing in line at the bank, 10 o'clock in the morning. My cell phone rings and I look down, it says Dickey Betts, which is scary.
Good, but scary.
And I was like, what's going to happen? Hello.
Yeah.
And he goes, hey, man, my guitar player just quit and the tour starts in a week. Do you want to do it? And I have 2 young children and a full-time job. And I go, yeah. Thinking, how am I going to explain this to anybody? So he goes, you know my songs, right? And I go, Ramblin' Man? Is that one of the songs? I think I know that one.
Yeah.
Because he had a 3.5-hour show, Greg. I didn't know all his material.
Oh, my God.
His full show?
3.5 hours. So took a break in the middle? So he carried on the same tradition that the brothers did and that Mule does in Great Southern and all his other projects. We're going to give you you're way more than your money's worth, and we're going to kill it.
And he expected me to know every Great Southern song.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've listened to Bougainvillea,
yeah, it's a beautiful song.
Well, him and Dan came up with these parts like it's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, there ain't nothing you can do. Ain't nothing you can do. Do you know that song?
Not off the top of my head,
dude. So he had mentioned to me after we did the first tour, we were on the phone before the rehearsal started for 2006, because I did the first tour was in 2005. He had mentioned to me on the phone at some point that he wanted to do Ain't Nothing You Can Do. And I had only listened to the beginning of the song, which is like a blues. So I hadn't listened to the whole song. And now we're on the phone, and he's like, so I definitely want to do, Nothing You Can Do. I want to bring that back. And I go, I'm cool, man. I listen to it, And he goes, okay, hotshot. Well, then I listened to the rest of the song, and I didn't realize they go into this instrumental thing. Mark, it's so complicated. It's so hard. It's really fast, and it's ridiculously complicated to play this harmonized. No, it's nuts. Dickey even said afterwards, we changed it a little because it was too much. He goes, we may have done a little too much coke in the studio that day.
Yeah.
The day they recorded it. So we changed it a little. But if you watch the live versions, there's a great show of us on tour. Dickey Betts and Great Southern, the Saban Theater in Beverly Hills, 2014. The whole show's on YouTube, 2.5 hours.
Oh, wow.
Dickey plays great. And but anyway,
any chance he's going to come back out again? Or I mean, he went out like last year, didn't he? For a minute. It was like a couple of shows or something like that.
Yeah, he hadn't played a show in 4 years, and I mean, you know, I don't want to be mean or anything, but he definitely didn't play as well as we all know that he can play.
Yeah.
And they made a DVD, which I don't think they. Whatever. I'm going to reserve comment on that. Apparently, he was invited to play this show coming up next week, March 10th, at Madison Square Garden, which they're calling The Brothers.
Yeah, I saw something about that.
Yeah, and he declined. So I don't know whether he's... I mean, he started saying that he was retired from playing about 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And then we did go back out. I'm telling you, in 2014, his playing and singing was brilliant.
Yeah.
That's why I would tell anybody, watch that show from the Saban Theater.
Yeah.
His playing is incredible. And we had I had a lot of fun on the road with Dickey. So that's what happened. That's how I joined the band. But when on that phone call, he goes,
if I'm not looking for gossip here, Dan left? Was it because of his health?
No.
Okay. I'm not looking for gossip.
I don't know 100%, but you know, I think Dan, there was some business stuff that he was unhappy about. I'm sure that's what it was, you know. So to what degree and the specificity of it, I have no idea.
Yeah, and I'm not looking.
But he definitely quit a week before the show to send a message.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, I'm sure I knew Dan. I'm sure it was like Dan was trying to get stuff straightened out for a while. No one was responding. I'm going to admit, I don't know.
Yeah.
That could be totally wrong. Maybe what Dan did was completely wrong and mean-spirited. I have no idea. And it doesn't matter to me. It's irrelevant. Yeah. It's not my business. But he quit a week before the tour. And I can tell you that the whole band was like, no one's going to walk in here and be able to cover this. You know, our first show is like less than a week from today. A 3.5 hour show, all these guitar parts. No one's going to come in here and be able to do this.
And you did it.
I did.
Yeah.
I mean, I made mistakes sometimes, but so Dickey says to me, so I say to him on the initial phone call, when do you want me to come? Now. Typical rock star. I go, Dickey, I can't come now. Like you just called me. Can you come tomorrow? I go, no, I don't think I can come tomorrow. He goes, well, call my manager. You know, but you got to get here. Like, you know, like I'm not fucking around. Like, you know, our tour starts in like 6 days. So, like, I go home. I tell my wife. My wife was cool. She's like, sounds great. Yeah. I go to Guitar World. They were like, I was freelancer anyway. They were like, and I was doing a lot of work for them then. In 2005, guitar magazines were still banging pretty good. So, you know. So they said, look, as long as you turn your work in on time, we think it's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, we're going to say, hey, you know, one of our editors.
Is on tour with Dickey Betts. Absolutely.
We're going to put a feature in the magazine. Like, you know, this guy who writes for us is now Dickey Betts' guitar player. And they did that. And, but Craig, man, I did not want to let anybody down. And I'm not going to exaggerate. I got about an hour a night sleep for 3 days or I should, before that, I should say, so I'm at Guitar World the next day telling them, what do you think? And they go, it's cool. Betts' manager, David Spiro, calls me. He goes, Andy, I just want to talk to you about when you can come down to Sarasota. I said, David, I mean, I don't know, like maybe tomorrow, you know, like, I mean, come on, this is the last second. And he goes, well, tomorrow's good because I already booked your flight for 8 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Okay.
So I go, and now I've had no time to prepare now, none. I get down there. Dickey goes, oh, we have to do a national radio broadcast with Redbeard tonight. We're going to play acoustic. Like, what are we playing? He's like, don't worry. I go, I don't have a guitar. He's like, I have guitars.
I'm sure he's got a shit ton of guitars.
So we go. It was hysterical. It was just me and Betts in the car, both ways. His favorite cassette tape at the time was Friday Night in San Francisco. John McLaughlin, Al Di Meola, and Paco de Lucia. He loved John McLaughlin. Loved. If we put John McLaughlin on the bus, Dickey would get on his knees and he would go like this in front of the speakers. He would say, John plays the ether. That's what he would say.
John plays the ether.
How great is that? And so we're driving back after doing the radio show, just me and him in his Jeep, listening to, and you know, we were drinking the entire time. Drinking beer. He loves Budweiser. Remember I said you can't get drunk on beer?
Yeah.
And, we get pulled over by the cops.
Down in Sarasota.
My first day there. So I'm like, this is great. I'm going to go to jail. I'm at Dickey Betts.
Well, you're not driving. You're not going to go to jail. Oh, for drinking in a unopened? Yeah, I don't think they put you in jail for that, but.
I didn't know what was going to happen. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
He's unrecognizable, Betts. You know what I mean? I mean, he's got his hair in a ponytail. He's not wearing a cowboy hat. He has what did he have on? Maybe a baseball hat. Cop comes over. Thank God he's like an older guy. License and registration. He goes, you were going kind of fast. And Dickey's like, oh, well, you know, I'm sorry. Like, we're listening to this music and we were talking and like, I just lost track, you know. And he's like, I'm really sorry. He's like very polite to the cop. He's like, I'm sure I was going over the speed limit. I just lost track. Like, we weren't, like he was going 50 in like a 35 or something. Like,
yeah. Okay.
Crazy.
Right.
License registration. Forrest Richard Betts. He's looking at, he goes, Dickey Betts? He goes, are you Dickey Betts? Like, you know, like very so sheepishly. He's like, and the guy's like, oh my God, like, I love your music. I'm such a huge fan. Oh my God, like, I can't believe I'm meeting you. And Dickey's just sort of like, oh, well, you know.
At that time, you knew you wouldn't be getting in trouble.
Like, nice to meet you. Like,
yeah.
And the guy gives him the stuff back and he goes, wow. He goes, I'm such an honor meeting you. He goes, just slow down a little bit, you know, have a nice night. And the guy walks away. Dickey turns to me and he goes, he was a pretty polite guy, right? I'm like, this is my first, I haven't been there for 12 hours yet.
Yeah.
You know? I'm like, this is what the next 12 years is going to be like, you know? And anyway, I wrote 1 million charts. I got no sleep. And I went to rehearsal, first rehearsal, not joking. I had like 5 music stands, charts.
Yeah.
And we played all the most complicated shit first. We played Nobody Knows with all the extra sections in it. We played Jessica with all the extra sections in it. We played, he would always open with High Falls. all these complicated instrumentals with really important guitar parts, harmonized parts. We played for 2 hours. I don't think I made one mistake.
Wow. That's really cool.
But I was like, I'm not fucking this up. Like, it really was like this. Let's see if you have your shit together, man.
Did you do that whole tour with just one guitar? No.
What do you mean? You mean I took one guitar on the road with me?
Yeah, you had more than one. Like a Les Paul and a Strat?
I didn't have a Les Paul yet.
What did you take?
An SG.
Okay, an SG and a Strat.
We went to Open E, which he would never let me play.
Hmm.
Not because he didn't want me to. It was because Warren Haynes always plays slide and standard tuning.
Yes, yeah.
He told me why. From all his years playing with Betts, but you never knew what song Betts was going to call. And so then you just turn around and go Statesboro Blues and start counting. And in the beginning, I would go, wait, and want to change guitars. And I think he let me do that for one show.
Yeah,
and then
so you just had to be prepared for everything.
Then he was like, dude, I can't stop the show for you to change guitars.
Yeah.
So it was like learned. Warren said that's why to this day, Warren most of the time plays slide and standard tuning. I mean, he can do anything he wants. He's had his own band for years. Even on his records, he said he's so used to playing in standard tuning that he will.
I've read that. Yeah.
Yeah, like he knows all the open tunings. He knows all that shit. Anyway, so we take a break, and Dickey grabs a chair, drags it all the way to the other side of the room so he could be by himself. And he's just sitting and smoking a cigarette. And I don't know anything. I don't know that there's a reason why he did that, which is that he wants to be left alone. So I grab a chair, drag it over to sit next to him. And I go, hey, man, I hope I'm doing a good job for you. And he takes a cigarette out of his mouth and he's just looking at me. And he goes, let me put it this way. He goes, I've had to do this many times over the years. You know, when we reformed the Allman Brothers in '89, I had to do it with Warren. You know, go through all the songs, who's going to play what, how the two guitars work. And then Warren left, and I had to do it with Jack Pearson. And then Jack left, and I had to do it with Derek. And he goes, where all those guys were in a week, you're there the first day.
That's awesome.
And he goes, you're a quick steady.
That had to make you feel great.
We get to the end of the rehearsal. He says, let's play Ramblin' Man. And I go, I don't know it. And it was true because I was like, fuck Ramblin' Man. Like, I don't have time.
Because you'll get that real quick.
I'll get that when I get to it.
Yeah.
I'm a lot more worried about everything else.
Sure.
And it was the funniest. I'm going to talk about, you know, high comedy. He was like, what do you don't know Ramblin' Man? And I was like, I don't. He said, I didn't learn.
That's pretty funny. But that's good, man. Your effort paid off.
And I think I did one show or two shows, and I made this board because I couldn't be shuffling papers on stage.
Sure.
So I made this board with the music taped to it. And Dickey would make fun of me. He'd walk over during the show and he'd like pretend to read the music while he was playing. He'd be like,
it was like on the side of the stage or something?
Yeah, it was on my side. But he would walk all the way over and stand in front of it and go. And then I was like, well, I have to lose, you know, I can't be looking at that anymore, you know. And so by the third show, I just had to have it together.
Yeah, and you did.
The band, you know, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but they breathed a huge sigh of relief because they were like, this is a really tall order.
It is.
I liked it, though, you know. It was the hardest thing ever. I mean, his music is very intricate. And the other thing with Betts is that, you know, he wanted to be able to change directions and change the music in the spur of the moment every single night. He liked to do these meltdowns where he would just go like this, and that meant he wanted time and rhythm to suspend, and it just go into like a like this amorphous cloud of sound
where he would just jam.
Well, we didn't know what he was going to do. So then we were just all like, now there's no grid, there's no groove, there's no nothing. He wanted to be able to do that at any time in any song. Man, you had to be on your toes. And the opposite of that is we played a show. We had 2 shows that we were sharing with the Outlaws. And you have to forgive me, Craig, for having too many stories. This is your funeral. And I know we got to stop soon.
No, we're going to stop after this, and we could pick it up and finish the rest if you want. But
we had 2 shows with the Outlaws, upstate New York somewhere, late afternoon show and an evening show, and we played the late afternoon show. And because it was a shared bill, we couldn't do anytime. He hated it when we had to play a shorter, like a one shot, 75 minutes, 85 minutes, because he was like, he felt like his hands were tied. He was like,
yeah, he's getting warmed up.
I got to play. Well, it was more like it was already preordained what was going to happen.
Oh, right.
Like I have to go out there. We're going to open with High Falls, but I have to play Blue Sky, No One Left to Run With, Liz Reed. Like he felt like Statesboro, like he felt like all the choice and creativity was taken out of his hands.
I get that.
So he didn't play any less well, and he didn't take the show any less seriously, but it was not as much fun. He would turn down gigs that were one-setters. He would say, no, I'm not interested in playing a show like that. It isn't worth it for me. It's not fun to go play the 9 songs that I have to play.
You got to give him credit for that, to be honest with you, as a entertainer and as somebody who
a creative artist,
yeah, and as somebody who wants to deliver value to the audience.
Well, this will illuminate it even more. So because it was fixed, we all knew that it was going to be a tighter show. And I'm telling you, Craig, I thought the band sounded amazing that first show. I mean, it sounded like a record.
Yeah.
Like it was like perfection to me. It was just clockwork silk. Like I was like, this is cool, Like this is so nice. Like, wow, like this band is so well rehearsed. Like I was blown away. I was like, man, this is really. Show ends. Betts goes, I want to talk to everybody. Like, get on the bus. We get on the bus. And he would always, hey guys, hey guys. He goes, that show we just played, it was the tightest performance we ever did. Sounded like a record. Nobody made one mistake. It was the most boring motherfucking shit I ever fucking heard. And if you think I hired you to go out there and play like a trained fucking monkey, you have another fucking thing coming.
Wow.
That wasn't music. He goes, that was bullshit. And he goes, if we go out there and play the second show like that, you are all fucking fired. Because that's not music.
Because you weren't stretching enough.
And he stormed off the bus.
Because you weren't stretching. In his opinion, I guess.
It's amazing. He's like, that isn't music. Like what that was has nothing to do with music.
But what did he want? I don't get it.
Music.
Oh, okay.
This is why Dickey's the great thing. Every show, he'd put his legs apart a little bit, and he would put his head back, and he would close his eyes, and he would want divine intervention to happen.
It's kind of like the Grateful Dead with only Dickey Betts. Yeah.
Well, Betts loved the Dead, and he loved Jerry.
Yeah.
Jerry were like...
Interesting.
And we would do a song called, oh God, what was the name of that song? I don't remember the name of the song. Might have been called Good. It wasn't called Good Time. What was the name of that song? Anyway, it was dedicated to Jerry. It'll come to me. I can't remember the name of the song. But no, it was a very interesting thing. And it was a great learning experience for me. Because to him, music, it wasn't music unless it was living, breathing, alive, in the moment. In the same way that it would be if it was John Coltrane and Miles Davis or Dixieland jazz. Phil Lesh talks about it all the time. Same thing. And Lesh and Dickey are very close. And Dickey loves Phil. And Phil and Jerry's whole thing about music. So, I learned a lot from being around Dickey. I mean, I did. He's a very powerful person. He was a difficult person. He fired me 4 times. I like to say that you must be doing something right if you get fired 4 times.
And you're still there.
That means you keep getting rehired.
Yeah.
You can't get fired 4 times.
Yeah.
Unless somebody wants to hire you a lot.
But this is common with these mercurial guys, that fly off the handle, that have like their own set of rules that they're, this is the world that, my world revolves around these. And if you want to be part of my world, you therefore have to revolve around these rules. And that's tough.
I guess. I don't know. In his case, I will tell you that every time we had an argument, most of the guys in the band didn't want to argue with Dickey. And I can understand why. But my personality wasn't that. When I thought he was wrong, I would tell him he was wrong, and then we would get in a huge fight. And, he would take a swing at me, but I think that he had no intention of hitting me.
Yeah.
It was just his way of, like, wanting to win the argument. Like, I don't want to argue with you. That was his thing, like, fuck you.
Okay.
Don't agree with me. I'm the boss.
Yeah.
And I would be like, no, I don't think you're right. And he would go like this, and I'd have to go like this. And sometimes I would go, seriously, you're going to hit me, really? Like, I know you're not going to hit me.
Did he respond?
Look at him, and he would look at me like, you're such a fucking dick. Like, I can't get over on you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to make you afraid of me so you will just do what I say. Can't you just do what I say?
Yeah, I get it.
And I would be like, I don't think you're right about this one, man. But every single time he would apologize the next day.
Really? That's very cool.
No, we were in Japan. My wife was there. He fired me after the first night. So I was like, I said to the tour manager, I go, fine, buy me a plane ticket today to fly me home. It's going to be like $1,000.
Yeah.
You want to buy a plane ticket from Japan to New York the day of?
The day of, yeah.
I was like, go ahead. And we had a day off. And I had paid my own money to bring my wife there. So we had a day off. So we went out. We went sightseeing all around Tokyo. And then we went out to dinner at this amazing restaurant that had been designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. And we get back to the hotel. My wife, who knows me well, she goes, I have to say I'm impressed. You haven't said one thing about Dickey all day long. And I'm like, you know what? Whatever. What can I do? He wants to fire me? Like, whatever. 3:00 in the morning, I wake up. I'm like shaking her. What's going to happen?
Oh, my God.
I went back to my normal self.
Yeah.
Like, what's going to happen? And she's like, he's going to apologize to you tomorrow. I'm like, you're crazy. It's not going to happen. She's like, no, would you go back to sleep, please? Next morning, we go down. He sees me, in the lobby of the very famous, the Hilton Hotel in Tokyo, where everybody stays. Comes across the room with his hand out. And he goes, I'm sorry about yesterday. I want to apologize. And so she was 100% right.
Wow. At least he did that, man.
And then he made it even worse. He was like, group hug. It was like,
yeah, I need to breathe, man. Thank you for your apology. But
like, hey, it was like, like you're a trip. But those 12 years were great. It was a wonderful experience for me. I learned a lot as a band leader, learned a lot about music. Nothing's better than that. This whole idea that music is something that's happening in the moment. That light, like we go back to Steve Vai. Steve Vai is a big fan of the writer Eckhart Tolle.
Yes, he is.
Like The Power of Now and stuff.
Yep.
That's the whole thing is like, all you have is now. Now is yesterday happened and tomorrow's not here yet. And so to be in the present is one of the hardest things to do because everyone's always thinking about what happened yesterday and what should have happened or what could happen tomorrow.
Right.
So nothing's easier than not being in now. I don't mean to sound like ridiculous.
I get it. I totally get it.
But music can't happen.
Music cannot happen unless you're in right now. That's
music
the thing.
Is now.
That's
music
it. Period.
And so is life. All right.
So in this abrupt ending, I just want to talk about, you just wrote a new book, Texas Flood, The Inside Story of Stevie Ray Vaughan. Talk about the book, what prompted you to write it, and what you get out of it, the process.
Stevie Ray Vaughan's a guy that I met in 1986. I got to play with him. First time I saw him was in 1984. Stevie was a really great guy. Just the fact that the first thing that ever happened when I met him was that we played was due to his generosity and just sweetness as a person. And then every other time I got together with him after that, which was 3 more times, he would always sit and play my guitar, which is a 1961 Strat.
It's a beautiful guitar, man.
I bought it in 73 for $275. So, is a 61 Strat I bought in 73. He had a 62 Strat he bought in 74, and his guitar is very similar. And then he passed away, and it was a horrible tragedy. And I got to know Double Trouble, Chris Layton and Tommy Shannon, and then their subsequent bands, Archangels, Storyville. And by the end of the 90s, I was recording and playing shows with Double Trouble and become very good friends with them. And I would stay at Tommy's house. And so this was like 30 years of getting close to them. I met Jimmy Vaughan in 89, so I've known him for 30 years. I never thought about writing a book and was always very protective of all my materials and my recordings with Stevie. And I never, ever did anything to try to capitalize in any way whatsoever. I have recordings of us playing together. I never would do anything with that. I mean, it wouldn't be right.
No.
So anyway, Alan Paul writes this Allman Brothers book, One Way Out, for St. Martin's Press. It's a success, makes the New York Times bestseller list. 4 years later, they say, do you want to write another book? He said, yeah, I want to write a book about Stevie, but I want to do it with my friend Andy because Andy knew Stevie. Alan did not. Alan did know Jimmy Vaughan for about 25 years and had his own, illustrious career as a writer and knowing a lot of musicians and having done a lot of interviews over that period of time. So the two of us were going to call from our archives of 30 years of interviews and then embark on all these new interviews. And so we got the deal, and that's what led to the book. And so we did a lot of new interviews, and it took 2 years to convince Jimmy Vaughan to come on board and sort of give us his blessing and then talk to me. But he did ultimately.
Why is that? Because you knew him. Why would it take so long?
the shortest answer to that is it's still very emotional for Jimmy.
Okay, that makes sense.
He's like, people want, he goes, I know everybody has the best of intentions. They love my brother and they just want to talk to me about that. He goes, I'm not going to lie. It's like my brother died in a horrible, tragic accident. And it's very, very difficult for me to wrap my mind around it still 30 years later.
I get that.
It is like, that's a fact. He's like, I can't apologize for it. And you know what? I mean, I have all respect for Jimmy. So when the fact that he actually did decide to talk to us,
that was cool.
There was a lot of misunderstanding and misrepresented stuff about the relationship between him and Stevie. A lot of negative stuff about brotherly rivalries and blah, blah, blah. And, Alan got to know a lot about the Dwayne Greg Allman situation, those brothers. I got to know Johnny Winter and Edgar Winter really well, so I got to know the brothers thing.
Yeah.
And Stevie and Jimmy would say to me, whenever they talked about when they had gone through these difficult periods, the first thing they would say to me is, do you have a brother? What
okay.
It's like having a brother. And what it's like having an older brother. What it's like a younger brother, And they would just go, it's brother shit. This is brother shit, And so I said to Jimmy, I go, look, if we write the book the right way, we are going to dispel all this baloney, these misconceptions for years that people have about you guys, and tell the true story, which is you guys loved each other and were very close. Because Stevie told me that, you told me that, and you both told me that when I interviewed you together, which we believe is the only interview they did together for Family Style. I did with the two of them.
That's cool.
And we included audio from that in the audio version of Texas Flood, which is so cool. Plus,
did you do the reading of that, or did your co-author?
Alan and I read, the prose sections of the book, but I'm also in the book as a one of the people, cast of characters.
An interview, yeah.
Well, because I could speak directly of my experience with Stevie Ray Vaughan, the person. I mean, I think I have one quote or two in the book not as a writer. So we shared, you hear our voices for the prose sections of the book that connect the quotes.
Sure.
And we were able to get, Chris Layton read his parts, all of his parts, and he probably had more parts than anyone. Tommy Shannon read his afterword, which is the most beautiful thing ever. Just too much. They are both wonderful people. Whipper called me this morning, and he goes, I know I can always call you because you'll answer the phone. And I go, well, this isn't me. This is one of my people. But I said, yeah. He goes, I'll answer the phone. I love you. And he goes, I love you too. So those guys are great. And that had everything to do with wanting to write this book, and also knowing Stevie was really important to me to do what we could to communicate to the reader Stevie Ray Vaughan as a person. And I could tell you the people who knew Stevie, like Eric Johnson and Chris and Tommy, and it's the quotes on the back of the book. Tommy Shannon said, this is the only book ever written that really captures Stevie the person. And I mean, that's the greatest thing to me. And then we were concerned about Jimmy, but I sent him the advance reader, and then I went to see him about a month later. And Jimmy's a little like Dickey in that he creates a wall around him. He doesn't want to be bothered by people, and he learned a long time ago that the best way to do that is to have this kind of tough exterior. Don't talk to me, and so people don't. But that doesn't mean they're not wonderful, warm, sweet people when you get to know them.
Right. They're
in the position of fame. They need to protect themselves. So it was a character that I was well familiar with Betts, that I could see similar. Someone who became famous young. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Been dealing with it his whole life. And so I think the thing with Jimmy that he liked was that I was always brutally honest with him and never bullshitted him at all about anything. Would never, whatever the cliche you want to use, lead him down the garden path. If he asked me a question, I gave him the answer, you know, like as much as he might want to or not want to hear it. He'd rather me be honest, right?
Sure. I think most people would.
So anyway, I jumped into the fire to see, you know, I didn't know if he would like read 3 pages of the book and throw it across the room or burn it. Like, I didn't know. And he said to me, I got the book. I read half the book the first night.
Wow.
And I put it down. He goes, it's a nice book.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that's the last time we ever talked about it.
There you go. That's about all you get from guys that are quiet like that with walls around them.
I'm not going to push it, you know.
No, he gave you what you wanted.
But we hung out. And I told you the story about kissing Jeff Beck at the end of the night. The first night I sat in with Dickey, I said to him at the end of the night, I said, Dickey, I'm so happy. I want to kiss you. And he just looks at me. He goes, don't kiss me. And I kissed him anyway. And then that night with Jimmy, I go, I want you to know that I've only kissed 2 men in my life. But they're pretty cool, Jeff Beck and Dickey Betts. And I go, you be the third, but I'm not even going to try to kiss you. And he's just like looking at me like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, I might be a little weird if someone told me that.
But it's a way of saying, like, you know, I appreciate it, man. You know,
yeah.
Like you, like, I love you. I do. Like, I mean, I'm not going to lie, you know, for all the right reasons, you know.
Sure.
Like,
totally get it.
You are great, man. Like, I mean, it means a lot to me. What are you going to say? You know, like, there's too much. You can't say it. There aren't words that are going to capture it, you know. So he's just looking at me. And, you know, I like that about Jimmy. You know, I'll say fucked up shit to him. It's so stupid to just crack him up, you know. And he'll laugh, you know, or he'll like give me an elbow, like, you fucking idiot, like, shut up, you know. But that's so much better than, remember we started our conversation where, you know, managers won't tell artists anything.
It is.
All that stuff. Man, those guys are sick of that shit, you know, and they smell it a mile away. And so when somebody is genuine with you, they also recognize that.
Yeah. But yet it's very pervasive, unfortunately.
Yeah, because fame is a fucked up thing, you know?
Yeah.
Listen, I don't consider myself a famous person by any stretch of the imagination. People know me from all these years of doing things. And then somebody will say, like, oh, you know, like, I followed that guy's stuff for 30 years and I met him and he was a nice person. You know, it's like,
yeah.
Well, good. Like, I'm glad.
Well, you'd soon enough hear if you're an asshole, believe me.
I had the chance to take guitar lessons from Pat Martino, you know, one of the greatest jazz guitar players that ever lived.
He's a Jersey guy, right?
No, Philly.
Okay, Philly.
South Philly. But, you know, just like Tom Mariano and I had a teacher when I was a kid named Joe Monk that was a brilliant jazz guitar player. It was like Joe Pass. And I'm telling you that all of these guys were like, you know, it's got to come from here. Like, there's no room for anything else, you know. And so I feel lucky, you know. Those are the guys I learned from, you know. Like, you know, you could have that, right? Or you could have the other thing, which is not as good.
Yeah. Well, I totally get it, man.
So,
well, and it looks like the book's getting great reviews and doing well.
Well, it made the New York Times bestseller list.
Congratulations, man. That's awesome.
And Richard Linklater is working on a documentary from the book right now.
That's very cool.
You know, the director of Days of Future and a variety of other movies. And we are also about to, hopefully, knock wood, we have a contract for a biopic feature film
That's wonderful, man. Congratulations.
Incredible person with their own strong connection to Stevie and that whole world that wants to make a feature film.
That's awesome, man.
It really is. And so
that's really cool. Congratulations, man. You've done a lot of work, so it's well deserved.
Well, we're really, it's really hard to get a movie made. Documentary is one thing. Hard enough. Feature films, powerful. We all know the stories. Powerful Hollywood people have tried for years. Like Brad Pitt, Matt Damon may have pet projects that they can't get made.
Yeah.
People like that because they just can't get the funding to do it. It's very tough.
Yes.
This person is like in that league. So we're hoping they will be able to, as are they, they're be pursuing this without it very passionately. But we'll see,
Hey, man, but live in the now. Right now, you got a bestseller list and a bunch of good things potentially coming up. And that's great, man.
And, I'm playing guitar. I have gigs. I play in a lot of different bands. I'm writing music a lot. Check out my records, Put a Sock in It, and Live at North Star. They're both Andy Aledort and the Groove Kings. I have my True Fire channel, Total Guitar Masterclass. People could take lessons from me. They do all over the globe, which is a lot of fun. I do Skype lessons with people too. Guys like Ryan McDermott who connected us. So I apologize.
But now you don't owe me an apology.
To the center of your mind.
It's very cool, man. No, listen, this is like a conversation, not an interview, man. That's how these go. The conversation goes which way the conversation goes, and it's good with me.
That's the way I conducted every interview I ever did. I thought if it's a good conversation, then, and again, B.B. King, you're not going to find a better conversationalist than B.B. King. One of the warmest, most generous people. What a blessing, man, to get to know him.
Yeah.
Buddy guy, to get to play with him and be around him. Albert Collins was the first famous person to ever ask me to play with him on stage.
That's pretty cool.
And, I told him, he goes, I want you to play with me tomorrow night. I said, Albert, I'd be scared out of my mind. He goes, you know what you're doing?
That's pretty cool.
I did, and it was great. And I was like ready to get hit by a truck. I was like, I could die right now. I'm the happiest person in the world.
That's very cool.
I went over to him and I said, it's 1990. I said, Albert, I just want to thank you, man. What an honor to get to play with you. And he looks at me, he goes, sound good, son. Made my night.
That's cool, man.
And dude, man, I like floated away.
That's very nice, man.
These are the guys,
Well, listen, man, thank you very, very much for your time. I appreciate all the stories, and I wish you a lot of luck with the book. Check out the book on Amazon, the best place to get it?
You can get it on Amazon, it's fine. Macmillan, you can go to. And I can't remember the link. On Macmillan is a link for the audiobook, if people are interested in the audiobook too.
Great.
And of course, there's a digital, like Kindle download.
Kindle, all that stuff.
But no, the book has done very well, thank God. And we've done a lot of book events and Stevie Ray Vaughan tribute shows where we combine them, do interviews. Alan just did the Joe Bonamassa cruise, and so he, spoke about Stevie with Reese. And I have my Friends of the Brothers band that plays the Allman Brothers music. It's all Allman Brothers alumni. Junior Mac plays with JMO, a variety of other people. We're going to do a pre-show for the Allman show coming up next week at the Garden.
Oh, that's really cool.
It's very cool.
Dude, that's that's at the Garden. Awesome, man.
We're not going to play at the Garden. We're doing a pre-show private party at the Cutting Room.
Great. Cutting Rooms are great. That's been around forever.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm happy, man. There's a lot of cool stuff happening. My amp that just got made, we don't have time to talk about.
Sorry, man.
My buddy Mitch Colby plug number 12, Colby amps, Park amps. So anyway, Craig, thank you, man. I hope you can make heads or tails out of this.
No, it's all good, man. Everybody check out Texas Flood, Inside Story of Stevie Ray Vaughan. Check out everything that Andy Aledort's got going on. He's a pretty prolific guy, and he's got shit tons of videos and columns and everything, and he's a bright guy, and he's been around the block, and he's a New York Times best-selling author, so buy his freaking book. There you go.
Yeah. Craig, thank you, man. What a pleasure.
Hang on one second. I'll wrap this up. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, please share it on your social media channels. We appreciate your support. Thanks very much to Andy Aledort for all his time. And most important, remember that happiness is a choice, so choose wisely. Be nice, go play your guitar, and have fun. Till next time, peace and love, everybody. I'm out. Andy, thanks for everything, brother.
Thank you, Craig.